Ready, fight!
From the producers of the Japanese PlayStation 2 game Dead or Alive 2 comes the all-new, all-American version DOA 2 Hardcore. It's got fearless fighters, way cool control, and scads of incredible women. Hey, keep your pants on, fellas, because it's time to hear from the game director, Tom Itagaki, on what makes this fighting game so sweet.
There
are three things that make a fighting game great. First of all, we focus on the motion of the game. Secondly, we work on the playability or control. And thirdly, we think about what will feel the best when we play. The visual and sound are secondary. It doesn't matter how good it looks or how good it sounds if you don't have those three things: motion, control, and the good feeling. What I mean by motion is that it is not just the attacks, but is the entire movement of the character, from standing position to fighting. The stance of the character is quite important. No matter how good of an attack this particular character might have, if his stance does not look cool, you aren't getting the full benefit of the motion. Of course, the standing is one thing, but the attacks do need to look good. And when you get hit, you need to look like you're in pain. That relates to the good feeling that you get as a player.
Okay, besides the motion, the control, and that I love it when my face is bashed in feeling, we needed to know what separates DOA 2 Hardcore from the other fighting games.
The controls of the game are based on the Japanese game Janken, or rock, paper, scissors. In the past, fighting games have only had two types of moves, offensive and defensive. So I added the third component, the hold button. The concept of Janken is so simple. It is something that everyone can relate to. That is why when we apply it to a fighting game, it works. The typical block feature of other games are low risk, low return. Our hold button allows you to do high risk, high return. Also, we do have a regular block mode as well.
Speaking of blocks, DOA 2 Hardcore features a bunch of blockbuster new levels. The question is, what inspired these new levels? And did those amazing women have anything to do with it?
We created 3 new levels for this game. Crimson is based on the city of Hong Kong. I designed the desert scene from the Great Plains of America. And in the dojo, I wanted to introduce Japanese culture to Americans. Whenever I come to America, I'm impressed by it and touched by it. When American gamers play the dojo level, I want them to feel the same thing, to be impressed by it and touched by it. So I included subtle details like a shiny wooden floor and the paper partition door that you can knock out if you want to. These things are very Japanese, and I'm hoping that gamers will get a feel for the culture. There are also 2 other new levels, but you'll have to wait and see them for yourself.
Delayed gratification is so 90s, but it looks like we don't have a choice. What we do have a choice is asking another question, and that is, What else can our gung-ho gamers expect?
DOA 2 Hardcore is not just a fighting game. I look at it as a fighting action game. So if you keep playing the game and punch a wall or break a door, it may show you things that will surprise you.
One thing that was no surprise to us was the incredible animation. We wanted to know how they were able to capture such realism, so we went to the source, lead animator Hiroaki Matsui, who explains how he got his dojo, mojo, working.
一番基本的な手法としてはもう全部手で
Basically, we start off with a hand drawing of the character. That is always the basis. And then in order to capture some live feel, we use motion capture. After that, we go back to the hand drawing. We enhance the motion capture images. We take a video of the motion capture to aid in touching up the motion capture by hand.
This is power, Lei Fang!
There's something about DOA 2 Hardcore that makes the game feel very much like a movie.
You don't know anything about power.
And it's not just the gratuitous violence, ear-piercing sound effects, and female fighters. We looked at Itagaki-san to shed some light on the subject.
In the past, fighting games often had a cinema mode that tells the backstory. During the game, you switch back and forth from cinema to game mode. Because the quality between the two modes was very different, it tended to break the flow. What we tried to do with DOA 2 is to have a seamless transition from cinema to the gameplay. I believe that is what gives you the movie-like experience. This is why we need to use the DVD platform of the PlayStation 2.
DOA 2 Hardcore is not only a bone-breaking game, but a groundbreaking game as well. In short, we love it. But will there be more games like it? We asked director Tom Itagaki to tell us what's up for the future.
I am in the midst of figuring that out myself, and I'm talking to a lot of people and giving it deep thought. Right now, my game is the future.
By 2001, the Dead or Alive series is in the same league as other 3D fighting classics, such as Virtua Fighter and Tekken. But Itagaki wants to set the bar even higher with the next edition. To do so, he makes two bold decisions. The first is to skip creating an arcade version of Dead or Alive 3.
In the American market, even though you can still find arcades, it's pretty dead, so it's useless to provide arcade games for them. It's the same situation in Japan, so it's useless to provide arcade games for them as well.
The second is to develop the new game exclusively for Microsoft's new console, the Xbox.
One of the most important reasons why we developed DOA 3 exclusively on the Xbox was that we could concentrate on just making the game. In the case of the PlayStation 2, when we want to realize an idea, we can't concentrate on just making a game. It involves preparing a specific library just for our ideas. That's too troublesome. Working on the Xbox was an ideal situation. We can concentrate solely on making the game.
Fan reaction to the Dead or Alive series going on Xbox was certainly mixed. Tomonobu Itagaki made a conscious decision to take Dead or Alive to Xbox. A lot of fans were disappointed by that, but a lot of Xbox fans were ecstatic. It's a very good series and it's now exclusive to Xbox.
I didn't think choosing to develop exclusively on the Xbox was a big gamble, because comparing the machine specifications to systems like the PS2, Xbox was much higher. I make my games to win. I can make a better game with a higher spec machine, so as a writer, I'm like a fighter pilot. The PS2 is like a Zero fighter, while the Xbox is like a Hellcat. I had confidence to win with the Xbox, so it was quite easy.
In November 2001, Dead or Alive 3 comes out exclusively for the Xbox, and gamers are floored by the new title.
It was a great game, great fighting game. And, you know, people really liked the idea of having this sort of fantastic fighting game that showed off the power of the Xbox. Without Dead or Alive 3, I think the Xbox would have had trouble porting a lot of the hardcore fans who absolutely need a great fighting game on their gaming system. Dead or Alive 3 did very well on Xbox. It was a launch title. Tomonobu Itagaki and Team Ninja got the graphics spot on. They showed the world exactly what the Xbox could do. He expanded on the notion of multi-tiered stages. Not only could you knock somebody off a platform, say, but you could knock them off a huge platform and they would go through a floor and bounce down.
The environments were absolutely amazing and beautiful. There were really picturesque environments I don't think could be rendered on any other gaming system. And for a company like Microsoft with the Xbox, their goal was to really try and, find games that would show why the Xbox is a better system than the PlayStation 2. And Dead or Alive is one of the only games, I think, that really sort of showed the power of X, as they say.
Both Microsoft and Tecmo win big. Only 5 months after its release, Dead or Alive 3 sells more than 1 million copies worldwide.
Dead or Alive 4 kind of feels like deja vu, but definitely in a very good way. Back when the original Xbox launched in 2001, Dead or Alive 3 was one of its big graphical showcases, and in turn, Dead or Alive 4 is here fashionably late to the Xbox 360 launch. The big difference between Dead or Alive 3 and Dead or Alive 4 is that this game has a very well integrated online play, in addition to a number of other tweaks to the gameplay and to the underlying formula that make this easily the best game in the Dead or Alive series yet, and right up there with the very best 3D fighting games out there. Dead or Alive 4 really doesn't reinvent the wheel. Don't expect this game to take some of the crazy turns that some other recent 3D fighting games have tried and largely failed at. Instead, this game is very focused on the core of what fighting games are all about. It's not immediately clear what Dead or Alive 4 does differently from other Dead or Alive games or other 3D fighting games for that matter. It's still about lots of fast strikes, punches and kicks. At the same time, you've got throws in there, kind of a rock, paper, scissors balance between strikes, reversals, and throws. But the system has a lot of other underlying complexities to it in that you can't just do one thing often. You really have to vary up your tactics in mid-match and keep your opponent guessing. That's really the key to playing well in this game, is to think on the fly, outsmart your opponent constantly. Your opponent is constantly trying to figure out what you're going to do next, and you have to be doing the same thing. So it's really a battle of wits as much as it's a battle of fists and feet. Above all, the game just plays faster and smoother than just about all other 3D fighting games before it. There's just a very natural look and flow to the action. It looks right, it feels right. One of the best things about Dead or Alive 4 is that all those skills that you earn practicing offline, you can take them online and play against other opponents worldwide. Much like Dead or Alive Ultimate, this game uses this virtual arcade type of system where it's not just necessarily you against one opponent. You might end up in a lobby where there could be as many as 16 different players, all kind of waiting in line in a round-robin fashion to take their turn. Or you could set up a smaller match and just get into some really quick games, but this virtual arcade system actually works very well for the most part. It gives you some incentive to win and stay on, much like you had to do in the good old arcade days where there were fewer machines than people, so you had to wait your turn in order to play. Waiting around isn't necessarily fun, but you could set it up so that there's just enough waiting around to make things interesting. One thing that's completely new to Dead or Alive 4 is this whole lobby system, which happens kind of right before you choose to enter a match, which is actually one of its problems. It's pretty goofy. It's actually pretty funny and amusing because you see weird little octopuses and ninjas and pigs and things running around. So it's got plenty of kind of quirky Japanese humor to it, but at the same time it feels really tacked on because as soon as you elect to actually join a match, you quit out of the lobby system entirely. For as polished as all of Dead or Alive 4 seems to be, the game does have a few rough edges. There are a few little issues with the otherwise amazing-looking graphics, like you'll see characters that have flowing long hair have their hair kind of flow in weird ways, like they're weird ribbons or dreadlocks as opposed to strands of hair. And there are also some occasional problems online. We had the game crash on us a few times and kind of hang up in weird ways. But all this kind of stuff, it's pretty nitpicky. It's not the kind of stuff that's going to ruin your experience with this game, whether you play it offline or online, because really the underlying game in Dead or Alive 4 and the entire presentation is what's so impressive about it, and it's what's going to keep you coming back. What's nice is that there is plenty to do in this game offline. The story mode running through as each character is going to let you unlock a lot of the different costumes and unlock some of the hidden characters and see some cool ending cinemas while you're at it. And otherwise it's just a quick way to get a feel for all the different characters and actually figure out that the artificial intelligence in this game is surprisingly good, even at the default normal difficulty setting. The computer is really going to give you a run for your money, and it might even seem very difficult at first, but after a while you're going to get better, you're going to learn the ropes, and you'll be able to beat it pretty consistently. It's not just the graphics, but pretty much the entire presentation of Dead or Alive 4 that's fantastic. Actually, surprisingly enough, the character graphics in this game, as good as they look, don't look all that different from how the characters looked in Dead or Alive Ultimate for the original Xbox. But still, this is just one of the best looking Xbox 360 games yet, especially because of how good the environments look. These look like environments you practically wish you could just walk around and explore rather than just fight in, although fighting in them is really cool too, since you get to bash people off of rooftops and through glass and across railings and even into oncoming traffic and stuff like that. So these environments are all really different from a tactical perspective. There are different things you could do in them, but at the same time they're just really, really pretty to look at. The audio in Dead or Alive 4 is really good as well, and although some of the sound effects and things are recycled from the previous games, they still fit the action very well. This is a game that can easily be recommended to basically any fighting game fan. I mean, if you like games like this, it's hard to imagine what you wouldn't like about Dead or Alive 4 at this point. It does have that level of accessibility to it where you can just pick up and start playing and immediately understand what the fuss is about and start having fun playing as some of these different characters. And it's a big, wide selection of different characters, so you're going to find someone in there that's really going to suit you, if not multiple characters that you really like. So all things considered, once you factor in the online play and all the other stuff that this game has to offer, Dead or Alive 4 is really pretty much perfect for just about any fighting game fan. And if you haven't played a fighting game in a while, you should really still check this one out just to see how these games have come along. They haven't necessarily changed much at the core, but they sure have gotten a lot better if this one is any indication.
I'm not gonna lose. I have to fight. I'll fight him, and I'll beat him!
The Dead or Alive series has always had an enthusiastic appreciation for the fair sex, and Dead or Alive 5 is no exception. Kasumi, Hitomi, Tina, and the rest of this top-heavy cast have returned as full-figured as ever. But Dead or Alive 5's exaggerated brand of beauty is only skin deep. It's the foundation of solid fighting mechanics that gives this game its true appeal. Combat in Dead or Alive 5 is divided into strikes, holds, and throws. These attack types form an askew rock, paper, scissors relationship. Strikes beat throws, throws beat holds, and holds beat strikes. Strikes have the greatest potential for damage because you can chain them together, while the majority of holds and throws end with a hard knockdown. This damage potential is further enhanced by one of Dead or Alive 5's two new techniques, the Critical Burst. Critical Bursts are tools designed to extend combos and guarantee damage. Successfully landing one puts your opponent in a completely helpless state, letting you wail on them with impunity. The second new technique is the Power Blow. This highly cinematic attack can only be performed once per round and only when the user is below half health. Landing the Power Blow triggers a brief combo, followed by the recipient being slammed into the environment, dealing substantial damage. While the extra visual flair is a nice addition, the game's real strength is the combat itself. Moment-to-moment fighting in Dead or Alive 5 carries with it a satisfying sense of weight and brutality. As in previous entries, holds grant quick-witted defending players an active way to influence the fight. The addition of Critical Bursts also grants skilled fighters a means to maximize damage, making matches more lethal than ever before. For players new to Dead or Alive, the best place to start is Story Mode, which doubles as the game's primary educational mode. The story itself is completely ridiculous, following each character's role in the latest Dead or Alive tournament. What is most important are the text blurbs at the start of each match. These introduce all of the game's fighting mechanics through optional challenges for you to complete during the fight. However, in later fights, when more complex or technically difficult tasks are introduced, it becomes too easy to simply ignore these tasks and focus solely on winning the match. Doing so causes you to miss out on important information, and with no indication which matches correspond to which lessons, it's difficult to go back and retry the ones you failed. Outside of story mode, there are numerous other single-player offerings in Dead or Alive 5. Arcade, survival, time trial are all present, and each is divided into 7 different difficulty levels. Completing one can earn you a new title for your online profile, a slot on the leaderboards, or even a new character costume. On your journey to becoming a master, you need to spend some time in practice mode. 2 especially helpful tools are Command Training and Move List. Command Training takes you through a character's moveset one move at a time, while Move List displays a short list of commands in the bottom corner of the screen that dynamically update as you perform combos. Throw out a low kick, for example, and the list shows you which moves you can follow up with. Once you feel confident in your abilities, you can try cutting your teeth against new opponents online. Ranked matches improve your online standing, while joining a friendly player lobby does not. Replay support is the only area that is severely lacking. Finding a replay means diving into the general leaderboard and searching for an entry with the replay icon. Even then, you don't know which characters will be fighting until after you've downloaded the match. Performance-wise, Dead or Alive 5 keeps pace with genre standards. Against opponents with 3 connection bars or below, there is notable input lag between when you enter a command and see it performed on screen. In contrast, opponents with 4 or 5 bar connections run without serious issue. Dead or Alive 5 is a deceptive game. The subtleties of its solid fighting mechanics are easy to miss under all the flashy visual effects layered on top. It is a game new players can pick up and enjoy without feeling overwhelmed by too many options, while still offering complexity to those who know where to look.
That was fun. Later.
Dead or Alive 6, we've come a long way. Where are we at in the story of the Dead or Alive world at this point?
So for the main story for DOA is the fight between ninjas and DOA Tech. And for DOA 5, there was a focus on the fight against Mist, which is a group of evil scientists. And DOA 6 is a continuation of that fight. And for last round, we introduced Hariro's Honoka Nyotengu Raido. And those characters will again show up in DOA 6.
Speaking of characters in DOA 6, how did you go about finalizing the roster for DOA 6, and what are your personal favorites of the new character additions?
The final roster of DOA was decided based on the story. We thought of which characters would show up in the story, and the new characters were also based on what characters would show up well in the story. Based on those 2 characters, Diego and Nico, I would say my favorite would be Nico, mainly because she uses, I'm sorry, I'm gonna butcher the name, Penchaxulat. And so it was really interesting to make her moveset, and she also has electric attacks that she can use in battle, and that made it even more interesting.
You've added a few new features as well, like you've added a button that can allow players to execute a combo single-handedly. Was this to balance it between people entering the world of Dead or Alive for the first time versus to give them sort of a way to play against people that might have had more experience?
There's a common misconception with the R1 button or the right bumper. It's not an auto combo per se. For beginners, it's a good way for beginners to see that there is an easy combo that they can do. But for veterans, I've seen a lot of veterans wherein they use the Fatal Rush to create their own combos and use it as a valuable tool to turn the tide of the fight.
You're putting an emphasis on making the characters look cool, noting it's a turning point for the series. Does this mean we can't expect another DOA Extreme in the future?
With regards to DOA 6 looking cool, my opinion is that even DOA 5, it was a very cool looking game. With regards to Extreme, we can't really say for now. It might come out in the future, it might not. It's really hard to say.
What does cool mean to you in terms of crafting a fighting game?
With regards to cool, for me it's more of like my image of cool is perseverance, basically. As characters fighting, even when they're losing, I can still win. That kind of feeling makes the character cool. Or it's basically the same as the dev team. We're constantly developing the game. We're fighting to get the game out to our fan base. And so to us, it's basically the same as the fighters, that we're fighting to persevere and win.
Why the decision to omit tag mode this time around?
I'm a big fan of the tag mode myself, and I'm a bit sad that we couldn't include it in the game. That is to say, it wasn't because we didn't want to include tag mode, but it was because we couldn't include it. It was mainly due to the lack of memory on the disc. For PC, it might not have been an issue, but we wanted to release it on multiple platforms, and so that was the limitation we had.
I'm curious, is the PC version being handled in-house, and what considerations have been made for the PC platform?
Yes, we did develop the PC version in-house. At the same time, we're also working with a new engine. And regards to anything special about the PC version, of course, the PC version has higher resolutions compared to the console versions.
What decisions have you already made about the free-to-play version of DOA 6 that was confirmed at Tokyo Game Show? And are there any details that you can share with us about the free-to-play version?
We can't say many details. We can't talk about free-to-play much yet because the details itself aren't complete yet. We're thinking it might be similar to the previous iteration for DOA 5, but we can't say for sure. With regards to release, it's definitely going to be post-launch.
So is this how you dress every day for work, or did you dress up special just for me?
Of course, this is especially for you. If I were to dress like this every day, it's going to be a bit weird.
Does it help you get in? Does it help you get pumped up to play DOA 6? When you dress up as the characters?
I'm definitely already pretty pumped up, so I don't think there's any more need to.